Welcome everyone to another video. My name is Haggot, aka Hags, and today I want to share with you how I analyze a property flip. So stay till the end to know exactly the full process behind finding a flip to the numbers and then selling it on for hopefully a large sum of money. Like I've always said with everything, never complicate the process. There's no need to assume that there's about 1,000,001 steps to these things, because when you watch through this whole video, you realize, okay, there's not as many things as I would have thought. Of course, money does play a huge factor in it as well. But starting straight off with the type of property I go for. For me, it's purely a freehold and a house. It can be semi-detached, it could be a detached, end of terrace, it could even be a terrace. Of course, you're somewhat limited to the space for future potential when a new buyer potentially wants to buy it off you and possibly do extensions, etc. When I was speaking about freehold just a second ago, I know in the news they've mentioned about completely abolishing leasehold for houses, but in this current moment, if you can get a house which is a freehold with a leasehold on it, and there's a potential of purchasing the lease, then you've really got yourself a huge, amazing deal coming your way. But of course, knowing how much a leasehold can cost could be quite significant, but then of course the discount counteracts it. Those are the specific types of properties I would go for. And now of course, location. I do have a set of locations. I've done a few videos now mentioning about different locations you can invest in, but I have my set number of locations, and all I do every day is just look through those specific locations, that specific requirement, and of course plug in the numbers. But moving on to figures, these are the exact figures you need to have in place before you've even touched or viewed the property to make sure that everything adds up to make sense to at least go view the property. So starting off with the purchase price. You want to know, can I possibly get it for a bit lower? Has it been on the market for some time? Or is the price too good to be true? That's the first thing. Second of all is stamp duty. Of course, there's 3% on all buy-to-lets, so you can't really do much about that. Just add that in. The next one is the refurbishment cost. If you don't know about how much a refurb can cost, I've done a few videos on my own refurb costs, and you can actually see how much everything costs to do. And these refurbs tend to be pretty much the full interior refurb. The properties I again want to go for are properties that have a lot of work doing to them. And as the saying goes, the more work that needs doing to it, the more potential profit you can get out of it. So for me, it'll be more or less knowing already how much a refurb will roughly cost, and then getting my builder down to really finalize the figure and to make sure that my numbers add up. But moving back to what I was saying, the next cost is solicitor fees. And I don't just mean purchasing the property, I mean purchasing it and of course selling it. So you almost have to do a ×2 of that figure. But when purchasing a property, it's always slightly more expensive. Just remember, speak to a solicitor, find out how much they charge. To be honest, most solicitors are pretty much the same. Now the next cost is the agent fees. And I don't mean when buying a property, I mean when selling the property. So when you come up with the resale value, which I'll speak about in a minute, you need to know what % roughly agents charge. You can call a few agents, or you can even ask the agent that you're buying a property from to say what's the resale % that you charge. And of course you can negotiate this stuff as well. So don't think that price is the final price. That will come out of the cost once you've actually sold the property, so you're not actually paying the agent. But of course, you have to factor these in. This is the profit that is eating into. So that's another cost. And of course, if you're buying through auction, check up with the auction and see what their fees are as well. I mean, on one of my auction properties, my first one, I paid around, I think it was £8,000 or £9,000 of fees. It's not ideal, but of course, the property is discounted heavily, so if the numbers add up again, why not go for it? And then of course, if you have other fees such as if you've got a mortgage broker fees, all those sort of fees, that's when you've got to speak to the mortgage broker, maybe if you have a bridging loan, whatever the circumstances. But of course, if you are cash, these are pretty much the only figures you really need. And then the final cost, it's more of a cushion. And I've mentioned this in so many videos, of about £5,000. So I'll add that even on top of it, just to be safe. The most I've eaten into is about £3,000, so never really the full shebang. These sort of costs tend to come up when something in the property comes up that you haven't spotted, or the builder hasn't spotted because it's behind a wall, behind a wallpaper, all this sort of stuff. And now, of course, we need to know the resale value. So I've done a video again about flipping properties, and how I'll do the resale value. I'll look at what is sold recently, such as the sold subject to contract properties in the local area. Not only that, I'll look at actually sold prices in the area, and then I'll call a fair few agents just to really confirm that the figure I have come to is correct. And I'll basically just find the middle ground between all of them, between a £10,000 bracket with the purchase price. That is where the profit really comes. If you can get the property for a really good discount, then you have yourself a good deal in itself. Once you've figured out every single one of these costs, of course you have to go see the property to make sure all these figures are right. But before you do those numbers, all the costs that you have to pay for, also the resale value, of course, minus that together. That is exactly how I go about finding a property flip. I may go and view about 10 flips potentials and only get one of them. Nowadays, I've really been able to master what I'm looking for. Knowing if I can get it or not, that's another story. And that's where you don't know until the agent calls you and gives you the news. And right now I'm standing in a new property flip, which I've mentioned a few times again in some videos, but you will get a full series on that. And then of course a breakdown of how I actually purchased it. So drop a like if you want to see that. And then of course a full tour and what will happen to it. But there we have it. I've been Hago, aka Hags. Don't forget the name, and I'll catch you in the next video.